Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Higher Ground. I'm Josh.
I'm Christina.
Awesome. Well, today I'm really excited because we get to talk to JoAnn Gama, who does leadership consulting through GEMS, which is her consulting organization, and really helping school and system leaders think through what the next steps are to get results for kids. But I think really her journey started with Teach for America, and in 2000, starting the legendary idea public schools that has grown to serve kids and communities across the country. So really today, our conversation focuses on school leadership and sustainability, which I feel like is so timely in February. And so I would love to just kick it over to you, Christina. With sustainability in February, what are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah. You and I were just talking about this. I think, there's a joke that all the leaders become consultants. And somewhat that's true. It happens. But there are also a lot of folks that are redoubling or recommitting. And I'm sure you're seeing that too. We lead a lot of CEO, executive director, or C-level searches for school networks this time of year. And we are finding great candidates wanting to lean back in, wanting to try new challenges, join a new organization, go to a new location or new city. We are finding people always ask me, like, oh, is there anyone for these searches? And there is, right? There are people that are really excited to redouble their commitment to kids. So that does give me hope. But you and I have talked about it earlier. I do think, in your conversation, I know you all spoke about sustainability and what do leaders do to make the talk sustainable for themselves and then therefore sustainable for their people. And I do think that's still a question we have to figure out. What we can do, not just to support leaders, but to support leaders in supporting their people. We sometimes forget about that step. And so I wonder what ideas came out of your conversation or what you might think about in terms of how do we support the educators in our building.
Yeah, I think the trickle down, and JoAnn right now when she's working with leaders talks about like that trickle down culture that affects everybody else in your building. So when you're going 150 miles an hour and you are not being sustainable or modeling sustainability, you're driving everybody else also out of your building unintentionally. And I think about one principal I worked with, phenomenal school, level 5 in the state of Tennessee, one of the top 10 in the state. But when our principal got into this new seat, I mean, she was modeling getting there at 6 a.m. and leaving at 9 p.m., right? Every day, because she was like, if I'm just pedal to the metal, that's what's going to set the tone. And she had one of her teachers bring a hot meal to her at 7 p.m. because she lived near the school, and drove it up there and said, hey, you at least need to eat. And said, we've all been worried about you. You've got to eat. And she said that she sat there and like took a moment, closed her computer and ate the meal with the teacher. And she said like the simple act of breaking bread with her and the genuine like concern this teacher had for her helped her reset of like, oh, I'm acting crazy right now, right? Like I can't do that. And she started saying like, I did work, but I started leaving at 4:30 to model like it's okay to go pick up your children or go to your kid's soccer game. And JoAnn talked about that too, which is this just idea of when you model it, like if the boss is still there when you're leaving, you feel this guilt. And so what does it look like to put up those boundaries and say like, I'm going to work really, really hard, but I'm also going to make sure that this can be an enduring institution.
Yeah. And we all think about it as leaders, right? There's that, how do you send your emails or Slack messages so they don't come in the middle of the night for your team? And I think you're right. How do people model, whether it's, I'm going to leave early because my kid has a doctor's appointment, or to your point, I'm going to make sure I'm home for dinner every night with my family or spouse or just with my friends. I think that is important. And then I also think there's the checking in with your people to kind of see, how do you figure out the impact your behavior's having? Just like with educators and kids, the kids are watching you every moment. Your staff is watching you every moment. So how can you get those people who will be honest with you? How can you pull folks aside or do surveys to find out what the impression of you is? We do leader evaluation. And when we do that, often we find folks all know, but sometimes we'll find out feedback or impressions folks have of people that may not be known. And so I think it's really good to have structures to gather honest, constructive feedback from your people on a regular basis. And it's not just a staff meeting saying, what do you like or not like? But maybe it's pulls aside, maybe it's taking people to coffee off site once a semester, maybe it's doing culture and climate surveys or just general surveys about how people are feeling, directed towards leaders and the leadership, because you might get some good information. And again, you might find out people saying, oh, I love Josh, but he works so hard, I can't ever keep up with that. In which case you could think, what could I do to make sure that I'm not setting an example that I don't want people to feel like they have to follow?
Well, I'm excited to jump in. So we'll have JoAnn here in just a moment, and I'm really excited for people just to learn and hear what she's been learning. from helping make sure that leaders can put their oxygen mask on before they try to put on other people's oxygen mask. And so, yeah, I'm excited for the next part.
Looking forward to the conversation. Thanks, Josh, for talking with her.
Awesome. Have a good one, y'all.
You too.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the second part of today's pod, where I'm excited to have JoAnn Gama with me, who is founder of GEMS. And also, I wanted to make sure that I was really clear with people about what it is that you do. And I want you to correct me if I say it incorrectly. But you all think about the teacher to leader pipeline.
That's right.
Which we can. Okay. I just keep hearing from charter leaders about how there's this stagnation of teachers who look at leaders right now and are like, nope, I'm good. And so I don't know, just to kind of start there, are you all seeing this in your pipelines at all?
I do. I actually do see that. That's really funny that you said that. So one of the things that we inherently believe as schools are looking to grow and scale, or as schools are looking to make sure they've got, leaders on the bench to take over when existing leaders are leaving, I inherently believe like the best people to take on your schools are people who are in your system already. They know program, they know culture, and you should be looking at incoming teachers and asking yourself, am I bringing in incoming teachers? And do I know which ones are leaders? They want to be a teacher leader. They want to be an assistant principal. They want to maybe be a principal in residence if you've got that type of pathway, and they eventually want to be a school leader, right? And so I believe after a teacher has demonstrated, results in 1 to 2, 3 years, you move them into the teacher leader role, right? And you develop a teacher leader academy where you are teaching them to kind of manage adults through influence, right? Coach, mentor, manage, either as a grade level leader or a content leader. And with some of the networks, that we've worked with and folks that we've talked to, I mean, they've had a hard time even getting some folks to raise their hand and say, I'll join the teacher leader program. And so what we're doing is, okay, if maybe your hand's only halfway up, but join the teacher leader program, like learn about it a little bit, maybe next year dive in or apply for a teacher leader role like content lead, grade level lead. We'll give you some of the tools and the training to be able to do that better your second year, and then do that for, 1, 2, 3 years. And then let's talk about whether or not you like it and you want to move into an assistant principal role, right? But yeah, definitely seeing folks who are like, I'm not sure it's for me. Folks who are in a teacher leader academy program with us and then are like, yeah, definitely not for me. I don't want to have these types of difficult conversations or crucial conversations that I see the APs having or the principals having. So it's real right now for sure.
We've been thinking a lot, and we've defined the problem at this point on the pod about the shift between millennials and Gen Z. And we know that a lot of people still think Gen Zs are middle and high school, and they're 28 now. They're turning 30. With that generational shift, what have you seen work in terms of helping give that allure to leadership to Gen Z folks?
I think they need to hear over and over that it's doable. And I actually think folks that are currently in leadership roles have a big responsibility to model that it's doable. But I think in a lot of instances, leaders are modeling that it's not doable, that there's not the work-life balance, that it is too hard. And so I feel like leaders have a responsibility to be able to show that school leadership is something that's doable. I mean, I'll speak from experience myself with folks I work with. You can be a mom, you can be a wife, you can be a partner, you can have a life outside of being a school leader if you're using, the tools and resources and taking advantage of the training that is out there. You kind of maybe do have to be a little type A. You have to be really organized. You have to have boundaries, but it is doable. And that's what folks have to believe, or we're not going to have the great teachers and leaders that we need in classrooms and in schools. So I feel like we have a huge responsibility to model it. So I'm always doing that. I'm always telling folks, your definition of work-life balance, Josh, might be very different from mine, might be very different from someone else. I might be okay 7 to 6, traveling 2 or 3 days a week, but you want 7 to 5, no travel, right? There's a way in which to make that happen. It's just, how you're leading and managing yourself as well to get that done.
Definitely bury the headline here, but also founder, superintendent at Idea Public Schools, which I believe is the largest charter school network in the country. Am I saying that incorrectly? Okay. So as you've watched the evolution from founder to where Idea is now as a cheerleader, right? And a sideline fan, what do you think your biggest lessons are as you've watched K-12 of?
That's a big question, right? Biggest lessons learned, if I think about it. I think one of the things that's a tough one, Josh. I would go back to again, it's doable, right? Um, you for if I were speaking to charter leaders specifically or school leaders or system leaders, I would say if I were speaking to system leaders, right? You've got to have a mission and a vision that you inherently believe in, right? And are willing to, speak to and are willing to put your own kids in, right? I mean, I had a charter system with a mission and vision that I inherently believed in, right? And it might be a little more contentious today, but that was that like 100% of our kids are college bound. And you come to Idea because we were making a promise to you that if you come, we will make sure that you apply to college, you get into college and you go to college, right? That's what we promised. That's what we believed in. My son was at Idea. He graduated. He was there K-12. Right? My daughter's still there as a ninth grader. Right. So these things are doable. Like have a mission and a vision that you believe in. Train up folks, hire folks that believe in that mission and vision, that exhibit the competencies that you need to be able to execute against that mission and vision, and then just grind and do the work to make it doable, right? And there's colleges, I mean, high schools nowadays are like colleges, right? If that's not for you and that's not what you want, there's other great schools down the road, right? Maybe you are more STEM focused and not so much college prep focused because we weren't STEM focused. Then look for a great STEM high school, right? Maybe you're more into the sports pathway and you really want to try to be a D1 athlete. So then like look at the great public schools that are in the area that could, get you into a D1 volleyball team if that's what, you were wanting. But have your mission, have your vision, be okay with talking to that, hiring to that, training people for that, and executing on that. I think that's what makes a great school a great school.
So again, buried the headline. You are also a chief talent officer for Family Academies. And the way that I wanted to close was this episode will air in January. And what we know is that people come back from winter break, they take that deep breath, and then we have gone into hiring season for the next year. And so for those people, to your point, who are charter or system leaders that are listening, what should they be thinking about for this upcoming talent cycle?
Yeah, I mean, they should be thinking about their people. They should be thinking about all the resources and training that you've gotten that says you should be having these stay conversations. You should be having these one-on-one meetings with if you're a principal, you should be having these one-on-one meetings with your teachers, right? You should be letting your teachers know that you want them to return next year. You should be talking to them about what they envision next year looking like. Are you the Algebra 1 teacher? Do you want to stay in Algebra 1? What else is it that you want to do? How can I help you as a leader get there? You should already, have your contracts or your employment agreements ready. You should already be able to talk to whatever, pay raises or incentives, whether it's, monetary or not monetary, that you're able to offer folks. You want to make sure that you're letting your folks know, Josh, I want you back. I want you to return. I'd love for you to stay and teach ninth grade, but is there something else you were looking at? Let me see if, I'm able to make that happen. I'd love for you to be a leader. Don't want to be a leader. We can make that work as well. You just got to really try to meet folks where they're at. And I'd also say if you're a system leader, if Josh is teaching algebra, but he really wants to teach calculus, how do we make sure that we don't lose Josh and we look network wide at maybe other calculus roles in the network? Whatever it takes to keep great teachers in front of our kids, we have to make sure that we're doing. So I feel like you should be thinking about all those things in January already. But priming and prepping your principals to have those stay conversations in a very authentic, compelling way.
Well, I think that is a good place and a good charge for people. So as they finish the podcast, go find a teacher and ask them to stay. And so really want to say thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.